Welcome you out to the June 17th Commission meeting. And if you would join us all in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda tonight is consideration of a motion to rotate chairmanship of the Board of Commissioners. I guess it is definitely that time.
I'll make the motion that we have Casey serve as the chairman for the next 6 months. Commissioner Hopes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That will be effective July 1st. Okay, great. The second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
I didn't see anything to change or correct.
I'm good with them as well. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Item number 3, open sealed bids for the old senior center building. Seth?
We received one bid from Salt Lake Antiques. And open this real quick. Says that the bid is for all 4 parcels, included in the old senior center building and parking lots. Their bid is for $120,000 for all 4 parcels. It says that it's Euro Treasures Antiques, currently located in Salt Lake City, and they'd like to relocate to Price. And they say that they will be investing a considerable amount of money in restoring the building and surrounding land.
I think we've also received a couple phone calls today, or at least one for sure, and then I've received a few emails in support of that as well. So just so that's on the record.
Commissioner, I just wanted to review with you. Our request for proposals indicated that they could submit their bid or their request in any amount they wanted, but that the county commission is not bound to accept an offer that's less than the fair market value as determined by our 2 appraisals. So this bid is less than the fair market value as determined by the 2 appraisals. So you're free to reject it, consider it, counter offer, do something else entirely. So just want to put that out on the record there, that you're not required to accept this bid, though you certainly may if you desire to.
I think as I've contemplated this, we've put it out a couple times now for a bid. The cost of tearing down is the other thing that weighs into this. I don't remember what we estimated the cost of tearing it down, but it was around $150,000 to tear down the building. I would be in favor of selling the property for the bid amount, unless there was a desire to increase that a little bit. I don't know what.
And Commissioners, you're also, as you discuss the purchase and sale of real property, you're entitled to go into a closed session if you want. So you could always throw this on to the end of the agenda and then move to go into a closed session. Go into a closed session right now. You don't have to go into a closed session. You can just discuss it openly if you wish, but I just want to remind you that that is allowed, is to go into a closed session whenever you're talking about the purchase or sale of real property to discuss sale prices or the value of that property.
I feel a little like Casey. It'd be nice to get a little more money for it. But weighing the options that we've tried to obtain from the public any interest in purchasing the building since October of last year. And this group is the only one who has come forward with any type of a real plan. It's a blight right now on that corner and is in serious need of repair. So I guess I'm okay with it as well. I wonder what's next if we choose to do that.
If you choose to do that, and maybe, I see that Mike Metzger is here. And Mike, are you authorized to answer any questions on this right now?
More or less, and then he's available by phone if necessary.
Do you mind coming to the microphone for just a moment? Just wanted to ask how formal a transaction he would like to proceed with. Does he want to receive a title report? Does he want to have a closing through a title company, or would he prefer that we just use I've got a simplified real estate purchase agreement contract that I've put together that basically says the parties agree there's not going to be any title insurance and that we sell the property as is. I guess my question is, does he want to receive a copy of title? Does he want some title insurance? Does he want to do a formal closing through a title company?
Sure.
Do you know answers to those questions at this
Yes,
point?
I do, yeah. At a minimum, he would like an abstract of the title to make sure there's no liens of record on it, and then he would be fine with a deed at the time of the transfer of cash. If the commission prefers a formal closing, title insurance on $120,000 would be $850-ish, and a closing fee of $150 per side. So it's a very minimal amount if that's the preference to have it professionally handled. But the buyer is only wanting to review the abstract of title and make sure there's nothing. So a title search is about $200 just to have it searched without insurance.
And would he be willing to pay those costs to get this done? I know
I'm gonna commit him now
typically
and
the
say
seller.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, he will.
Okay. All right. So that's something for us to consider. We can talk about that further, but I just think that's,
Yeah.
if we can do it quickly, I think that's one of his primary concerns, is to proceed
Yes.
with all haste, right?
Yeah, and the only other thing left to discuss that I'm not sure the disposition of would be the Boys and Girls Club and the, is it tumbling? Dance, acrobatics in the east side, what their terms of occupancy look like. He's not looking to throw someone to the curb needlessly, but he also will need to move forward with his business in the near future.
I believe we've talked with the Boys and Girls Club. They know our intention, either to sell or to do something with the
Yeah.
building. So I don't know if they found a place.
I don't know
had
that they've found a
options.
place yet. I know we would like to give them at least a little bit of notice so that they.
Of course.
Right now, they're providing services for people who have to work through this time and can't
Understood.
find, so they're babysitting for people that have to work through the COVID.
Yeah.
Commissioners, as I sit here and think about this, my recommendation would probably be that we do proceed through a title company and do obtain a title insurance policy and just go through an escrow company. And I think we could get that done pretty quick.
They're 7 to 10 days out maximum on a title report, so.
Is that okay with you? Is that timeline okay?
Oh, sure.
I think we ought to do that for a significant transaction like this. I mean, it's,
And if we wanted, as far as timeline for closing, to give appropriate notice, after the final terms have been agreed, I would say a 30-day notice would be completely, reasonable and acceptable to the buyer.
so as I'm just sitting here thinking about it, I think we probably ought to go through a title company, get that title insurance policy for the buyer, and because then his recourse is against the policy and not against us, and
Accurate.
it's just a cleaner transaction. So that would be my recommendation as we do that. We provide the policy, split the escrow, the
Yes.
other escrow fees, which are really going to be de minimis in light of the entire transaction here. So that's my thought. I've got a form that I could get to Mike probably tomorrow, Friday at the latest, an agreement, and we can start negotiating, getting that signed.
Fine tuning the,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Mike's handled more. He'll quickly see what he wants to see in the contract if it's not already in there, and I'm sure we'll get that negotiated quickly. So that's assuming you vote to do that. I know a motion has not yet been made, but
Yeah, I think I'd just like to add that there's been a fair amount of interest from the community to not tear the building down.
Yes.
And so this would provide an opportunity for someone to try to do something with it.
Definitely.
So
He's got great plans for it. It's an exciting proposition for us here. I really, if you guys watched my video when I went live, like I'm very excited about the prospects of what his company can do for the county as far as bringing outsiders in, but also taking our community out with the television contacts that he has. They've already committed to, if he moves here, to following him in the move and mentioning where it's located, which is just going to put us in a national spotlight that we've never seen. It's super exciting.
why don't you tell, and this is being broadcast live and recorded and people watch this, tell everybody a little about this company.
Sure. So he's been in business for about 40 years, and I've got a little rundown here. And so during this time, he brings in design students from the colleges, help them put together curriculum for a interior design program. And he's had movie stars in there from Christina Brinkley to Barbara Streisand that he's sold product to, and they will follow him because he's got the largest collection of antiques, for sure in Salt Lake, more than likely in the top 3, maybe top 1 west of the Mississippi. His collection came from, yep. Liverpool, and it came, and it's over 60,000 square feet of antiques, took over 60 shipping containers, floor to ceiling, tightly packed to bring it to Utah. And now it will be packed from Salt Lake and come to Carbon County. And he's got $10 prints to hundreds of thousands of dollar pieces from the 1600s. It's one of the largest, it is the largest antique art collection within the state. And it will likely, depending on the vote, be housed here in Carbon County. He also has been on Antique Roadshow. It was a 5-minute segment, and he can trace $2 million worth of sales because he was showcased on Antique Roadshow. And that was just a 5-minute segment versus the 7 out of 10 episodes that his shop is in for the show that's being created currently, which is the Old Home Love. They're restoring I'm going to really get the square footage off, so I apologize. It's like 20,000 square foot house. And a lot of the pieces that they're placing in that house are coming from his shop, and they're filming the purchasing and the picking of the pieces and the history of the pieces as it comes to that. And the people that are filming that are Andy and Candace Meredith, and they work for Chip and Joanna Gaines Network, the Magnolia Network. And if you're not familiar with who Chip and Joanna Gaines are, they made their debut on HGTV. They grew such a following that HGTV couldn't hold all of their content, so they made their own channel on the cable networks. And they're looking for content to fill. They haven't given a guarantee of this, but the producer has said, I would love to follow his move to Carbon County, the restoration of the building, and he's even cast a vision even bigger than that, and that's revitalizing a downtown, which would be just mind-blowing. So I'm a little excited.
It was hard to read that from you.
I tried to contain myself, but I was,
Thank you.
Any questions?
That'll help the community, those that aren't here today, understand a little bit about the potential
agreed.
here.
Agreed. Yeah, he's just and he's just got a great following from when the universities would do a scholarship fundraiser, he'll donate art pieces to it. He's very community minded, very community involved, and it's practically another world-class museum coming to Carbon County, because that's what it is with that many pieces. Probably $40 million worth of product.
Very nice.
Christian, is there any additional things we need to do with our disposal of surplus property where it falls into this?
No, we've had a public hearing in the past on it. We've also discussed it. We put it out to bid. We got the 2 appraisals, so we've done everything we could to determine what fair market value is. We've told the public what that fair market value is. So no, I feel like you've done everything you need to under 1753-12 to sell this property and under our own ordinance. And I think all we need to do now is enter into that, get that contract finalized and get it under contract. So I think you've done everything required by statute to this point.
And I think most people want to see this building stay here. They wanted to see something happen with it. However, nobody was able to come up with an idea, vision, or frankly, the money to do anything with it. So I don't want to sway anybody in any ways, but I mean, this is obviously the only bid and the only real project that we've received for this,
Yes.
other than just sentimental value. So I personally believe it's a good opportunity.
Love it.
Possibly in a couple different things, fix that building up, draw some revenue in, draw some visitors in as well. I could see this as a positive.
It's an anchor. I mean, it's going to bring people to that downtown, and they're going to stay in our lodging, eat at our restaurants, drink in our coffee shops, find our trails, find our roads, find our open spaces. I think this is just a fantastic opportunity for Carbon County. And I appreciate your guys' support thus far.
Thanks for your help, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
And I'd like to make the motion that we accept this proposal from
Salt Lake Antique.
Salt Lake Antiques,
Yeah, it's the
Euro
Salt-
Treasures Antiques, for $120,000 for this, the old senior building and the parcels adjoining it.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Again, it's hard to read your enthusiasm there, Mike. So.
I'm like a kid on Christmas morning. That's awesome.
Well, you work to pull all the parts together here, if you would, Mike, and help us know what we need to get for you.
Absolutely. Yep, me and Christian will be in touch, and we'll get those
Okay.
details hammered out over the next 48 hours.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Now for the boring rest of the meeting here. Item number 4, consideration and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding between Utah County's Indemnity Pool and Carbon County regarding the fraud tip line program. Seth?
Yeah, this is a boring part, but necessary. As we've discussed in previous meetings, in kind of in relation with the annual fraud risk review that we do with the state auditor's office, they highly suggest that we have a fraud tip hotline, which to my knowledge we haven't had one in the past, but wanted to get one set up after looking at some options. One of our most viable options was through a company called Lighthouse, who does a fraud tip hotline. They give us a quote for $500 annually to have set up a line for us. And some of the other clerk auditors in the state suggested that we talk with USIP. And after chatting with Johnny Miller, he said that although we're not a member of USIP, USIP is Utah County's indemnity pool, and we're not a member of that group, yet they offered us to be a part of their, or set up a tip line through this same company, this Lighthouse, which many of the counties in the state use. Their annual fee to use this tip line through USIP was $75.50 annually, so it was a lot cheaper, but we'll get the same company and the same service that we would otherwise. So the question is whether or not to go forward with USIP and take advantage of this fraud tip hotline that they could set up for us through this same company, Lighthouse, for $75.50 annually. As part of this, any tips that we received would be sent to my office as well as to the commissioners. If it was a tip regarding me, then it'd be sent just to the commissioners. So that's how they've suggested that we set up the tip hotline. So if you have any questions, go ahead.
No question, but maybe just an explanation of why we're doing this and what it actually will do.
Again, the state auditor's office highly recommends it, and as part of our annual review, I think there's a possible 350 points. This is, if we have one set up, it's 20 points towards that, so you can see that it has a decent amount of importance in their eyes. What it'll do is it'll help reduce the likelihood to have some type of fraud in the county. Because we have the tip hotline set up, it gives people an avenue to feel comfortable if they see or feel like they see some evidence of fraud, they can call the tip line and report it. And like I said, it's just a way for us to decrease our chances of fraud at the county.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I think it's a good thing. I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Utah County Indemnities Pool and Carbon County for a fraud tip line.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 5, consideration and possible approval of a nonprofit tax exemption for Carbon Medical Services Associations, Inc.
Seth, do you have information on this one?
Yeah, I can give a little bit of information on it. The Carbon Medical Services, they are already a registered nonprofit in the state, and they receive tax exemption status for 2 different buildings, if I remember correctly, in our county. They recently purchased another. Not super recently, but within the last year or 2, they purchased a property that they use as part of their regular workings, and so they asked that it also be put on a tax exempt status, so that they're not paying property taxes on this property as well as their other properties, which makes good sense, as they're using it as part of their normal operations as a tax exempt or 501(c) company in our county.
Is this a facility in Sunnyside that they're wanting this? The application, it says Carbon Medical Services, property located at 331 East Highway 123, Sunnyside, Utah.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, it is, yes.
It's for their clinic out there. I don't have a problem. I'll make the motion that we accept this proposal from Carbon Medical Services Association Incorporated to make this parcel tax exempt.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Hang tight there, Seth. Item number 6, review and possible approval of the May 2020 tax sale.
This is what happens when you miss a commission meeting, right?
We have some catching up to do.
Yeah, catching up. So as you know, annually we have a May tax sale for any parcel in the county that's 5 years delinquent on their property taxes. It's a way for us to collect on delinquent property taxes unfortunate but necessary. This year we had 6 parcels on our May tax sale. 4 of them sold at the tax sale. As you have before you, the bids and bidder numbers and what the parcels were sold for. Each of them satisfied what was owing on the taxes and fees. There were 2 parcels that did not sell or did not receive a bid. You can see those, parcel 02-2354-0000 did not sell, as well as SA-2025-0000. That last one, we've known it as Hidden Splendor Resources. But those 2 did not sell, the other 4 did, and you have before you what the bids were on them, if you have any questions.
So Seth, being the SA 2025-000 or Hidden Splendor, being that that's been up for tax sale, nobody offered anything for it. Are there any options that the county has to move forward with that property if somebody was to make an offer? Or?
So my understanding, and Christian can correct me, is property that goes up for tax sale and is not sold will go into the county's name, become theirs, and then you have an option, much like the senior center, to do with it as our ordinances suggest in selling real property, what your process is there. So.
Sounds correct.
Okay.
I think just some understanding also as we move along. We had a minimum bid. Does that represent what was due in taxes?
Correct, yes. As you see there, the minimum bid includes what was owing on the delinquent 5-year taxes, as well as $350 that was added on in fees that were administrative fees, as well as title search fees, those type of things.
And all that the county's allowed to keep is what's due in lost taxes. The rest of the money is returned either to lenders or the property owner themselves, correct?
Correct. So you'll see the minimum bid and then what the property sold for is the final bid on the sheet. Anything excess of the minimum bid, or everything up to the minimum bid, is kept by the county. Everything in excess to that generally will go to the state to unclaimed property, where those who have some kind of claim on it can appeal to the unclaimed property and receive that.
Okay. I think it's just good information for the public to understand that we don't reap the benefit of selling these properties other than the taxes due on those properties.
Correct. Yeah. By law, we can only keep what is owing by taxes and the fees.
Okay. Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the May tax sale, May 2020 tax sale.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 7, consideration and possible approval of an amendment version of Ordinance 510 pertaining to procedures for the sale of real property.
That should be, I think I put it on the agenda as ordinance 512, but I think it's really supposed to be 516. So I apologize, Lori, to you especially, because you try and keep these straight.
516?
But 516 is one that we approved a year ago, but we didn't ever get it finalized or signed. So this is supposed to be a final version of 516. It differs from the previous one in that although we've been complying with our approved version of 516 that was never signed, I've changed this to state that a significant parcel of property for purposes of Utah Code 1750-312 is a parcel that's worth over $250,000. As we've been trying to look at surplus properties and comply with the statute that says you have to get two separate appraisals for each significant parcel of property before you can sell it, we've come to find out appraisals can get pretty expensive. In fact, for example, the appraisals it can be up to about 15% of the value of the property if we keep the value of the property at If we say a significant parcel of property is $100,000, you can quickly get up to, for a commercial appraisal, you can get anywhere between $4,000 to $8,000 for a single appraisal, depending how involved that gets. So all of a sudden, we're appraising this property and spending 10 to 15% of the value of the property just on an appraisal to determine its value. So my recommendation is that you give yourself some leeway here. The statute does not set any amount, a minimum amount for a significant parcel of property. You have the leeway to do that. My concern is that getting appraisals slows down the process, it ties your hands, and it costs a lot of money when your goal is to move property. So I recommend, and I make this recommendation after talking to you severally on this matter, that you move that amount to $250,000 for a significant parcel of property. In speaking with you, I've also been reminded that it's your policy to the extent possible, try and keep private property, not have a net loss of private property in the county. In other words, we'd like to see property stay on the tax roll, or if we sell it, go back on the tax roll. That doesn't mean there won't be times where you would consider donating property to a local government entity or to a church or another nonprofit entity doing some things that help our county. But I've put in there a provision that says even if the federal or state government is the highest bidder when you go out to sale, you're not required to sell it to them in light of your desire to keep property available for economic development and private use. So those are two new provisions in there. Just as a reminder, anytime you sell a significant parcel of property, you have to have a public hearing on it. You then have to get 2 appraisals, and then our ordinance sets out the ways that you would sell it. You can go out to bid, you can do an RFP for proposals that can include plans for economic development or management of the property. You can hire a realtor to sell it. You can have a live auction to sell it. If you're selling it also provides that we're going to, if you're selling an insignificant parcel of property, a lot of times we'll have a little wedge of a piece of property that's in a neighborhood because we got that property from a tax sale years ago, or it's an old abandoned road that we've got. We indicate you don't have to have a public hearing for an insignificant parcel of property, but you do have to give notice to the adjoining landowners. And once you've given them notice, you can sell it for any of the ways, in any of the manners that you've tried otherwise. So it provides that everybody gets notice that might possibly have an interest in our property. It complies with state statute and makes it so it's a very public process. It says even when you're selling an insignificant parcel of property, you're going to bring that to the commission meeting to approve that sale. So we're doing this openly, and I think it's a good local ordinance. It checks all the boxes you need to check when you're selling property.
Thank you for that, Christian.
I think this is a good thing. I like the no net loss with federal and state agencies so that we can keep as much property in private hands as possible and simplify the process for selling of the real property. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 516.
I second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 8, consideration and possible approval of release of parcels 2A-1102-0000 and 2A-0841-0000, 2A-0850-0000, and 2A-0841-0001 for sale and determination of method of sale.
So here's an example, Commissioners, of what we were just talking about. These are all parcels that we believe are, as you look at them, they're good sized, but the value of them probably is not going to exceed that $250,000 threshold. But here we're giving public notice that you're going to consider whether or not it's in the public's best interest to sell these. And then you can, if you wish tonight, determine a method of sale. You could also set so we're following our ordinance right here on these parcels, and I think a couple of these may be a couple of those Hidden Splendor parcels that were struck off to the county at the tax sale. So I'll let Commissioner Jensen, I know you're aware of these, and some of you probably better able to describe the parcels than I am.
Well, I think maybe to give a little history, we've been reviewing the excess or the surplus property that the county does have in our names, and these two parcels, we've had an individual come forward and request to purchase these. So one of the parcels is in the Soldier Creek area below Soldier Creek Mine. It's a 40-acre parcel that they would like to purchase. The other is the Hidden Splendor properties up in Consumers. Have interest in purchasing both of those. So I think it's in our best interest to try to dispose of these parcels. They serve no purpose to the county at large for any reason. So if we can sell them, we would get some money from that, as well as put them back on the tax roll, like Commissioner Hopes has indicated. So I think I would like to move forward with this.
So would that include a public hearing?
I don't think you need to do a public hearing because, and Commissioner Jensen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the value of these as our assessor looks at them is, although it's a lot of acreage, it's not, it's probably more suitable for recreation than for any kind of industry. Some of these, at least the one in Soldier Creek. So you always have the right to go get an appraisal or two appraisals if you think it's a significant parcel, but I don't know that, I think that ought to be your first decision or discussion, is whether these are parcels that are worth more than $250,000. If they're not worth more than that, I don't think you need to hold a public hearing on this to receive public comments.
I think I could make a recommendation, maybe even a proposal, that we advertise the one in Soldier Creek for sure, and I'm not sure which parcel this.
Yeah, I think it's the 2A-1102 is the Soldier Creek one.
Okay, and that's a 40-acre parcel, and it certainly would be well below the 250 market value. And look to see if the Horizon properties may go over that 250. Kind of look at the value and work with the assessor's office to see what it might be valued at. If it's below 250, then to include this whole thing as a one-time advertisement in our normal publications that these parcels are they are for sale, for proposal, and I'd like also to potentially put a minimum amount of what we would accept for the properties, and that would be determined by working with our assessor's office to determine those values. I have not done that yet, but I would like to include that in the motion, and then advertise and give people 2 or 3 weeks to respond to that, and then have a bid opening or a day when they're due, and open them in our commission meeting, maybe the middle of July. I don't know, that seems like it's far enough away that maybe realistically, or the 1st of August. If we do our advertising.
I think that sounds good. We're supposed to let it, we're supposed to give, as I looked at the statute again today, it's supposed to be 14 days to come up with your bid on these after, from the date it first hits the newspaper, we're supposed to give potential bidders 14 days to submit a bid to us. So even if we got that out beginning of next week, you wouldn't be able to do it before the earliest, the second meeting in July. And you might just be safe, go out to August 1st to make sure, give us time to look at everything and figure out values and whatnot.
Okay, I'll include that first meeting in August as the date to receive the proposals.
Okay, I'll second that.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did we put enough in there to figure out how to dispose of it?
Yeah, so we're doing it in two groups, right? There's two separate sales here. One sale will be the Soldier Creek property. The other sale will be the Hidden Splendor parcels. And I've got 3 parcels down as Hidden Splendor, but one of them might just simply be a road parcel or an abandoned. It's really 2 parcels, I think, in Hidden Splendor, but they're both adjoining. So sell the Hidden Splendor parcels as one group, and then the other 40-acre parcel as a separate advertisement.
Okay. The Hidden Splendor properties are up the Consumers Road, right at the base of the mountain before the county road climbs up over and down into the Schofield area. So this is the area where that coal mine was in operation. That mine property has been reclaimed, and so it's just virgin ground now.
Are there any liens, do we know of, on that mining property from M. Shaw or other companies around the area? Do we know that?
We don't.
We had a title search done, so we can check that. The title search will tell us.
Thank you, Seth.
Are we good then on that one, Christian?
Yes, I think you've done everything you needed to there.
All right. Item number 9, consideration and possible adoption of ordinance 526, amendments to the Carbon County Road encroachment permits.
Maybe I can address this just a little bit. The process of working within a Carbon County right-of-way to do any digging or installing any utilities, water, sewer, phone, gas, are typically, it requires that whoever is going to be doing the digging would come to the county and acquire a road encroachment permit that would allow for the county road department to be aware that someone's digging in the road right-of-way. And the fee for that has been very low, and in reviewing that, we've decided that we should raise those fees up, change where you come to get an encroachment permit. Used to be the road shop, and now they will come here to the administration building and check in with the planning and zoning department to purchase those. Just a little tighter restriction on how those go out and how we keep track of them. And we're hoping to eliminate the road settlement issues that we have had through the county and trying to solve that problem. So I've worked with planning and zoning and also with Curtis Page, our county engineer, and our road department supervisor, Daniel Campbell. And this is their recommendation, and I would second that recommendation of theirs and make the motion that we do pass this adoption of Ordinance 526 that amends the Carbon County Road encroachment permits.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 10, consideration and possible adoption of Ordinance 538, a change in the Carbon County zoning map from M&G to RR1, located east of Hardman Hill Drive in Spring Glen for Jackson Nichols.
I might also put a little information to this one. This is a parcel of property owned by Jackson Nichols, and it is on the hill east of the golf course. There's already a few homes on the top of the hill. It's been determined that there is a right-of-way that would get to this parcel that's kind of in the middle of it, and the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended that we approve this, and I'd make the motion that we approve Ordinance 538 to change the zoning map from MG to RR1 at Harmon Hills Drive in Spring Glen for Jackson Nichols.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 11, consideration and possible adoption of Ordinance 539, amendments to the Carbon County Road Standards.
I'll take this one too. The planning and zoning have worked really hard to tweak and refine some of our ordinances that were quite old. And so here again, our county engineer, Curtis Page, our county planner, Todd Thorne, Daniel Campbell, our road department supervisor, and myself have gone through all those old ordinances and tried to bring them up to date with things that are going on today. We're anticipating subdivisions that will begin to be built with the current condition, or not condition, but state of the homes for sale in our area. We're probably down below 50 homes that are available for sale now, down from 270 a year or so ago. And so there's a need for some more subdivisions. And with that in mind, these new standards will help developers come in with things that won't leave us problems down the road. As they come in and get approvals for a subdivision, once the plat for the subdivision is approved, then the property within our road right-of-ways becomes the county's property. So no matter who would do work there, we will have some more control over what they do. Sewer line installations, water line installations, gas line, phone, and power, and require in that work that they do a little stricter compliance with compaction and testing requirements. And I think we've redrawn the road typical sections of what different types of roads we have in the county would look like, how much gravel would be underneath them, and continue to tweak a few things that will help us with problems down the road in eliminating those. So it's a fairly lengthy section of the ordinances that we have, section 12, and I've not only helped put it together, but have read it close, and I think that it's in good shape, and I would make a recommendation or make the motion that we adopt this revision to Ordinance 539, amending the Carbon County Road Standards.
Before I second that, I just want to say thanks for all the work that you put in on both of those ordinances, getting them brought up to current standards, and all the work that the staff has put into that. So appreciate all your work, and I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you for the work that you put into that. It's going to be noticeable down the road, no pun intended.
You bet.
So, Commissioners, do you have before you just the changes to the development code? Is that how that, or do you have an actual ordinance? Does it actually say ordinance? Does it have an actual ordinance number on the front, or is it just a section 12 to the development code?
It's just section 12, what I have in my hand.
Okay, so I think I need to prepare a little ordinance for you to sign, and that section 12 of the development code, and that's a new development code section.
Okay.
That will be that ordinance So that section 12 will be an attachment or an exhibit to this ordinance. And doesn't it say on there it's not just road standards, but it's also engineering and design standards?
Yes.
Would you read that title,
So
Commissioner?
Section 12 is Carbon County Engineering, Design, and Construction Standards.
Okay, so Ordinance 539, just for the record, is an adoption of Section 12 in the Development Code, which is those engineering, road, and design standards. So I just want that to be clear. If anybody ever looks back to see when and where we passed this, they can easily find that in the minutes. So, thank you.
Thanks, Christian.
I have one thought tonight. It's not on the agenda, but as we sell these properties, I think it would be good for us in this setting, maybe in our next agenda, to actually talk about what we're going to do with the money that comes in from the sales of these properties, and earmark
Sure.
those for something very specific, so that it just doesn't go into the general fund and get bled out. We need some money to work with in economic development. We have parcels of property that need additional work to them, so they could be sold potentially. We have no money to put water and sewer and roads in the industrial park where we own 14 acres. And if we're unable to sell the full 14-acre parcel, we got to have some cash to do that. We also have the cost of our appraisals that we did for the parcels. That was not a budgeted item. That this could help the sale of these properties, including the old senior building. So this will be not the first, as we've sold 2 small parcels and have maybe $7,000 or $8,000. And I think it would be wise to include those in this as well.
I think that's very wise. Anything else? I'll accept a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
We are adjourned.